And then John's death teaches us so much again. First we read how Herod's fear of the crowd's disrespect and disapproval of him, initially prevented him from arresting St. John for what he was doing, for what he was saying about him. But then later at the party, again, out of fear for how his friends would look at him, for a desire to save face, he then has the holy forerunner murdered. He has him beheaded. Herod's pride leads him constantly to man-pleasing, to seeking approval and praise, first of the crowd, then even of his friends. And this man-pleasing leads to terrible evil. The Fathers teach us that the mind is given by God as the king to rule over the senses and to rule over the passions. But like Herod, the mind can be charmed. The mind can be charmed by evil. In the eyes of the world, this lawless, wicked man was victorious over God's righteous saint. But in reality, his evil only led, of course, to an eternal state of damnation. And similarly, we mustn't be fooled by the outward appearance of the events of the world. We mustn't be disheartened by what seem to be short-lived victories that evil seems to have over good in our world. God will always have the final word. God's will be done. God's will. We must have no fear. And we can apply this not only to individuals and our personal experience, but to the grand scale of politics and conflict and wars. Those who seem powerful, who seem to claim victory at times, they will answer to God, to God's judgment. The holiness we see in St. John, it really is a fruit, the fruit of a life lived for God. This is the message that we must install within ourselves, a life lived for the God. And we must flee from the world as much as we can. And of course, the responsibilities and the circumstances of our lives don't mean that we can all run to a physical desert. But we must run inwardly to an internal desert. The desert, as they say in the Fathers, the desert of the heart. We must find our own spiritual desert and take refuge in God within our hearts. We must build into our lives a framework of time, where there is quiet, where there is prayer. However busy, however surrounded by other people we are, we must build into our lives that secret place of quiet, the inner desert, where we can be alone with God. And St. John was the forerunner of our Lord, but also he was the forerunner of monasticism, of other men and women who went to the physical desert to be with God, to focus on God alone. And it is a miracle that even in our day, human beings will follow this way of life, and that we can visit them and gain and learn from their insight, but the presence of God in them. In his death, John the forerunner heralded the death of Christ. We see the herald of Christ's death in his death. And so we must see our own crucifixion and our own death to the world also as proclaiming Christ's victory. Our death, our crucifixion, must proclaim Christ's victory to the world. But also, let it proclaim our faith in this victory.